Hey, guess who I ran into at the beach here in Parksville? Actually, I ran into Meaghan the other night at the Cube of Truth in Nanaimo, and I realized it was a golden opportunity to have her in my backyard and hopefully arrange some time to get together and just talk about our experiences, talk about maybe some things that are going on right now in animal rights, maybe conversations that we could benefit from having, things like that. We're just going to kind of freestyle and see what comes up. So I guess one of my first questions is, what really motivated you to get into activism? Because I know you've done a lot. I've been in activism a short amount of time, and from the moment I got into it, I realized that you were someone who's done a lot. So what motivated you?
Honestly, I don't know. I know that I met someone and got told about Earthlings and watched it and then was doing activism right away. But for me, it was never like that transition of, I want to be healthy, or for my health or for the environment. It's always been slightly militant about for the animals. And definitely, I'll be honest, the first year plus, and when I was doing organizing with Direct Action Everywhere in Vancouver, I was doing it for the animals, but I was definitely doing it for the praise as well. And for it, there was a lot of ego. And after that, there was some stuff that happened within the community in Vancouver, and I burnt out. And so I had to take a break and really kind of reevaluate why I was doing this, and what kind of self-care and all that kind of stuff that is definitely needed for us to do. And then I came back and slowly kind of started and was better on my feet and found my voice a lot more clear and not so much ego-driven. It pops in there now and then, of course, because I'm human. But I definitely know and can see when it's happening and reel it in.
Yeah, that's a good skill. I've gone through a process like that myself. I don't know if anybody remembers, but back in September or October of last year, I was a lot angrier, let's just say, than I am. And I think that ability to rein it in is important, because I remember people saying things like, and hearing things like, well, just be the vegan that you would have wanted to get to know or run into or whatever. And I don't know, I just couldn't stand hearing things like that, because I was trying, and I felt like I knew I was angry, everybody knew I was angry, but being told, just don't be angry, or just it's not productive. So if you're angry,
use that.
We got to deal with it. We got to deal with it. Yeah.
Channel it, because there's that kind of that balance of, yes, I understand that talking to someone on their level and being calm and kind and listening and that whole thing, when you're doing outreach or doing anything, that's the only way they'll hear you. But it's just the conflict in that there's no time. This is urgent. We need to be angry and loud, but finding that kind of balance of being angry and fucking pissed off and feeling the urgency of it, and translating that into a calm kind of thing to bring it to other people is difficult.
It's difficult, and it's a process. It's a process, and I think it's important to be kind to ourselves and be kind to each other during that process, and cut each other some slack, and when you see someone maybe being a little more aggressive or a little their tempers maybe getting the best of them a little bit, it's not a time to judge, it's not a time to criticize, it's not a time to make a public spectacle of it on Facebook. It's a time to support that person. And I think some of the biggest support that I got when I was really in that super angry stage was just people listening and just people saying, yeah, I get it. I get it, you know?
Yeah, because absolutely we need to vent. Because like I said at the march, we can't unsee Earthlings. Like, now that we're in this space of wanting to be active and vegans and, you know, not plant-based, but vegans, the whole all-encompassing of what that word means, is that we can't unknow that. So walking down the street, every bus stop sign that has a burger on it, or an aquarium poster, or, you know, a dog that looks like it's probably from a breeder, like everything, just our whole lives are just dripping with death and suffering, and that's just what we see now. We can't turn that off. So we need to find outlets to be kind to ourselves and to others in that process, because it sucks.
Yeah, and I think too, one of the things that I found really helped was being active, just getting out and doing something and being around other people. It gave me an outlet for it, so I wasn't just holding it all in anymore. And I think that when people don't come out to events, whether it be, you know, social nights or marches or cubes, just to hold a sign or hold a computer, I get it, but I also think, wow, you're really missing an opportunity to, if you're feeling that way, to do something with it. Because just by being there and just by being in that energy, it alleviates it, and you just feel so much better. And there's so much love there, and they're so fun. So anyway, come out to events, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, but really also I think that something that we're trying to do with Liberation BC in Vancouver and all over the place, I'm wanting to try to find reps on the island and all over, so that we can spread all of this. But there's so much going on with Vancouver, with protests and cubes and all this stuff, that Liberation BC, we're wanting to more focus on the activists and support and community, and celebrating us and celebrating the things that we're doing and celebrating everything, and also making sure we've got support in place for any kind of burnout, and doing workshops around that kind of stuff. So that's really important too, community and just feeling a part of, because I know it's very intimidating, and also just actually knowing and learning about what kind of tactics you are most comfortable with, because I suck at outreach. I keep trying, but then I will go and I'll want to punch someone in the face, or I start crying in front of some stranger, which maybe that's okay. But I just am so hard on myself. I'm like, okay, I have to get out there. I have to do better. And it's like, I don't have to do it all. That's too much. Like, I myself personally am doing a lot in different aspects too. And things like doing stuff at the sanctuary, like that's a huge thing. If you're not comfortable going out to all these protests and conflict and disruptions, and the cube too, because you get interactions with people who don't agree, and that's uncomfortable and strange. So focusing your activism on helping the animals and supporting sanctuaries, that's huge, and that's part of activism just as much as any of the others.
Yeah, that's a really good point. When I first got into activism, it just became more and more clear that we're getting to a situation already where we do not have enough sanctuary space for animals, and that doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good for anybody. And you know, here on the island we have Rasta, and we had Rasta. We still have Rasta, but that's where we were at when I first came on the scene. We just had Rasta, and of course the place in Langley is
the Happy Herd.
The Happy Herd. And then a Home for Hooves started, but it's sanctuary is such a big part of the activism cycle, and it's been so great to see so many people really start to get into sanctuary and support sanctuary. So I got to give a big shout out to some of the people here on the island, because that has really brought community together. Is we're kind of rallying around Sanctuary, and we've had some great times and some great social events. But I'm so happy to see Sanctuary as part of it's a full circle equation, right? I mean, we can do all the activism in the world, and we can get people to stop using animals, but what are we going to do? You know, and it's easy to say, well, you know, as people stop, then they'll be breeding less. But I also think it's important to realize that that's not just going to be a perfect equation, because we're already in a situation where we're turning animals away. So I think that's a really good point, you know, getting involved with Sanctuary. And I mean, some people are volunteering for Sanctuary and they don't even see the animals, you know. They're doing administrative things, or they're taking photographs, or they're collecting donations for the silent auction so that we can raise money. So there's tons of great opportunities to get involved through Sanctuary. That's a really good point. And it's a feel-good thing too.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, that the sanctuaries are giving us as like frontline activists an outlet to go and reboot and like see the animals that are happy and see some good and just happy animals that are living their lives out, instead of always looking at and seeing all the footage that we see when we're doing disruptions and all up against it, that this is a total, like, this is what we're doing it for. So it's real solace for us, for myself, to be able to go out to these places. So I am in immense gratitude to the people who run these things. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine?
It's so much work.
And the way I look at it too is, you know, I can have a dog and I can take care of my dog and pay the vet bills for my dog, all that kind of stuff. But I can't do that for pigs and cows and chickens. I'm not in that situation. But I can certainly help to financially support the people who can do that, and look at it as, if I don't have the space and if I can't be the caregiver, then I can at least financially support, you know, the people that can. And you know, I think Sanctuary, because that happened for you, wasn't that a big part of your story? Visiting Sanctuary?
Yeah, I went vegan, and I say that in quotations because I was still having little nibbles here and there of leftover yogurt of someone else's food. I never bought it myself, but I wasn't actually like vegan, but I was doing activism, and this all started in February, and then it wasn't until the November that I went out to Happy Herd for the first time and met Scooter and Sparky and Lucy and all the animals there, and that just did it for me. Like I could not physically put any kind of animal product in my body after meeting them in person, and so that was it. So coming up this November, it will be 5 years, I believe.
Awesome. So focusing on Sanctuary and spreading the word about Sanctuary, and, you know, what I like to call billboarding for Sanctuary. Always wear my always wear my Sanctuary wear. I mean, that's activism, right? Because people don't even know there are farm sanctuaries.
Yeah.
They're always so curious when they look at and they see the animals, and it opens hearts and minds. So I really didn't plan that this video was going to be so much about Sanctuary, but I'm glad it kind of went that way, because I think it's why we do what we do, right? So if we're going to save them, then we need to home them as well. And as much as we take on the call to service for the animals to try and stop people from using them, I think we have a similar call to service to home them, to give them those forever homes. Yeah. So the March to Close All Slaughterhouses was amazing.
Yay!
That I was just thinking about this earlier. I went to my very first march 29 years ago. Yeah. And I would have to say that the March to Close All Slaughterhouses was probably in the top 3 marches of my lifetime.
Yay!
Yeah.
Oh, that's so rad.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. I've been saving that for you.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I was in charge of finding all of the speakers and people that were doing speak-outs and leading the chants and holding the main banners in a couple spots. And I decided upon myself, because of course, yes, that I wanted them to be all representative of women. And I realized afterwards that I didn't really ask my co-organizers, and then I felt like, oh, maybe I should have checked in with them, or oh, should I maybe check in with them now? And that's such a female automatic thing to make sure that everything's okay, and oh, I need to get permission from everyone. I can't just stand on my own 2 feet and make this decision. And I realized that no, I don't need to ask for permission. Of course I'm going to do this. And so I was able to. There was just one chant leader that was male, David, who if there was any ally that we would have up there, it would be him, and he is just awesome on so many levels. But I did get everyone else to be female and do the chanting and all of the stuff, and I feel like it was just incredible. Like, some of the people didn't have experience with it. I certainly fumbled a lot, because really you don't really know until you're up there and doing it, and it is hard work to keep going and going and going. But how powerful was that, to have on the flatbed, you know, a person with a mic, and it was a woman in, like, going down the streets leading these intense, like, really loud chants. So
it was amazing.
I'm really proud of that piece, that I was able to spearhead that. And we didn't really spotlight that whole thing. It just kind of was, because I kind of want it to be a thing where we don't have to call it out and you know, acknowledge it. It just is. So.
Well, it was really great for me to see again. I guess one of the fun things about getting older is that it's fun to look back and look at how things have changed. And I was thinking, wow, you know, to have women leaders and women out on the front line, and women, I mean, 80% of the movement is women, right? Mm-hmm. But to have that visible leadership, it shouldn't be a big deal, right? It should just be,
yeah.
But historically, when you understand history, when you've lived through some history and experienced that, you realize what a big deal that is. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I was trying to think of where does this happen? Where in my lifetime have I been able to look and seen myself represented in leadership? And I can't think of many places. And the only things that I came up with were like organizations, social justice movements, or movements that were headed by women. The women's movement, which is kind of obvious.
Yeah.
We can lead that one because it's the women's movement.
Yeah.
And then I thought, what else? What else? You know, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. That's great, but they're mothers,
yes.
so they get to lead it. But but when the playing field is supposed to be level, when the playing field's supposed to be all equal, why historically have we not seen women at the forefront of leadership? So I think it's important to look at this social justice movement as being an evolution of social justice movements that have the same issues, similar issues, and to look at the big picture. So for me, seeing women leading and visibly leading is not just about a personal satisfaction for me as a woman, and as a woman who's, you know, sort of been around for a few years, but it's good for humanity. Yes. It's good for the evolution of humanity. So I hope that when we talk about women in leadership, that we can look at the big picture. We've had patriarchy for a long, long time, and let's give matriarchy a chance. And this is such an amazing opportunity to give matriarchy a chance. And it's a very natural fit. So this is an evolution of many, many decades to get to this point where we have strong female leadership and representation.
And
So-
I've just only kind of found my voice in starting to, even just over the past couple weeks, posting about this kind of stuff openly and kind of loudly. It wasn't like a little fire was lit under my ass after the Animal Advocacy Camp when we had Lisa Kemmerer come and speak. And I think there was, or I know actually, there was quite a divide in what the women heard and what some, not all, I can't say for all, but what a lot of men heard and felt about that. And we kind of put that whole conversation on hold over the past couple months, but definitely over the summer I am wanting to open that up and even have create some sort of event where we can just have an open discussion about that, about maybe show her talk and then discuss it. And I hope that everyone comes. I mean, I'm just spitting this out now. I mean, I wanted to do this for a while, but I hope that this will bring, folks that did not like the talk at all and were incredibly offended by it, and those who just were awestruck by it, so that we can have a facilitated, good, open, loving dialogue, so that we can all share our views without any judgment and everyone be heard, because that's really important. But also this needs to be heard in a way that this is the reality for women, and it's not something that used to happen, it's still happening. And so I think that's
this is a great conversation opener. And I think whenever you have an event that can be perceived in such extreme opposite ways, that's a sign that there's some healing that needs to happen, and some sharing and some understanding and some peace that needs to be created. So if some of you out there might watch this, if anybody watches this, who knows?
so many people. Millions.
You might not know what we're really talking about, so I guess
Message me.
message Meaghan. But if you do know what we're talking about, then I think this is a great conversation starter, and let's have more conversation, and let's keep our hearts and minds open, because we need to find some peace and come to some agreements and resolutions. And I had never heard the term intersectionality.
I know, it's
before.
still new to me too.
Yeah, and I'm still kind of figuring it all out. So I also realized that there's some talk and there's some language that's going around in this department that maybe people don't even understand, because I'm certainly struggling at times. And also, having come from a different generation than most people in the movement, there are things that I say that are old school, and I'm catching myself, and I guess the message is be kind, be kind to each other, and cut each other some slack, and realize that we're all working through this in real time.
Yeah, we're all ignorant on some level, and knowing that, and being open to be called out or called in a kind way, and if you're calling in or calling someone out, then to be empathetic to that fact that we all have different life experiences and don't know stuff. As shocking as it is, it's the way it is, and so the only way people will learn and grow and learn about these sort of things is by engaging in conversation and talking about it in a kind, open way that it can be heard. Because if you're going at it aggressively, then just like when we try to talk to Carnus about animals and their suffering, it's not going to be heard. They're going to feel like they're being attacked.
We don't want that. We don't want to create that that environment. We don't want to get into those, I'm not speaking to you anymore and cut off and all that crazy drama. The movement is about love, and we're here to love each other. And we need to do that through this. The worst thing that can happen to this movement is division. So we just cannot let that happen.
Yeah, we have to break the cycle, because that seems to be, just goes
and
round and round and round.
It does. And calling people out or calling people in, do it in private, like don't come into a Facebook group and rally the troops for your cause, have the consideration. Here I'm talking like an elder. I'm 50 now, so I'm gonna call myself an elder. There's got to be some advantage. Come on.
Yeah.
Do it in private. Praise in public, and constructively criticize or offer feedback in private.
Yes.
I'm excited. We have a new initiative called the.
Oh, right.
I gotta get this right. BC Rainbow
Animal
Alliance. Yes, thank you. Because, oppression is oppression, and there's a lot of people who have lived, with discrimination, lived with being marginalized, lived with being oppressed for whatever reason, who are not making the connection that that's what we're doing with animals. I had this amazing conversation the other night at the Cube with this gentleman, and he was maybe in his 60s, and he really didn't care about the animals. He was totally fine with them being killed and eaten. There's really nowhere I could go, and he said, it's fine because it's the food chain.
Yeah.
And I just paused and I said, so what do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean by the food chain? He's like, well, we're up here, and the animals are here, and so we can kill them and we can eat them. And I'm like, well, but why should we? Why is that okay? And that really struck him, and he realized, because he came over to talk because he likes anonymous.
Yeah.
He's got a bit of an anarchist spirit. So posing that question to him just made him go, oh, wait a minute. He said, I was not prepared for that question. He's like, but yeah, you've really given me something to think about, because we're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
To the animals. Like, why does anybody need to have that power? Why does anybody need to have power over anybody? And so we need to extend that and help people who are also oppressed or have been oppressed make that connection. So that's why this alliance was formed, and so I'm really excited.
I like
about
the
that.
logo.
Yeah,
Pretty cute.
yeah. It's
BC Rainbow Animal Alliance.
Yes.
It's on Instagram and Facebook, right?
Yes. So please like us, and we're going to be doing some stuff. So stay tuned. I'm not going to say too much because we're kind of really rushing and scrambling to get things together, and I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So I'll just say that things are in the works.
Cool.
So anything else? I mean, oh my gosh, how?
I don't think so. We're at like 28 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think we
it.
covered a lot of stuff, and
So if you're watching this, it was super fun. Let's do more of this. Let's sit down for these conversations and video them and get other conversations started. And it's not always easy to get out there and get together as a community or whatever, but let's make the time to do this and work through some of the stuff and build a stronger community, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you came to sleepy little Parksville. Yay! And what's coming up? What's next? We've got Vegetoria.
Yes.
Yes.
It's gonna be so big, and Earthling Ed.
So please go off. Like, anyone has to convince you to come and hang out with Earthling Ed, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see you there. Thanks for listening to us, you guys. Talk soon.
Bye.